Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of This Week in the XFL. I'm your host, the referee, representing XFL Newsroom. That's right, folks. We're changing the name. We're changing the game here. So we're changing from XFL 2K to XFL Newsroom. No specific reason other than I think it better represents what we're doing here. You know, XFL 2K is nice because it's a nice short domain, but XFL Newsroom is more in line with our mission statement. We are the number one source in XFL news, so welcome to the XFL Newsroom. The show's going to stay the same. It's still going to be This Week in the XFL, again with your host, the referee, but now we're just representing XFL Newsroom. So you should see the logo switch here probably in the next week or so. We're going to switch the domain over from xfl2k.com to xflnewsroom.com. So all of those changes will be happening shortly. One thing that you may have already noticed, though, is the handles have already changed on our social media accounts. So instead of at XFL2k.com, because let's be serious, that's not a premium handle. We don't want that garbage. Get out of here with that. We now have at XFL Newsroom on Facebook, Twitter, and right here, of course, on YouTube. But hey, enough about us. We have a big news week ahead of us. We're going to talk about some departures. We're going to talk about some additions. We're going to talk about some championship rings and some other things. So let's get it kicked off. We're going to start with the sad news, but with a positive swing here at the end. So we're going to talk about two XFL departures. So we're going to start off with Catherine Raish from XFL Tampa Bay. Assistant General Manager is now moving into the NFL to the Philadelphia Eagles as their football operations coordinator. Right? And you know what? I'm not sad. I'm happy for her. This shows the potential that the XFL has. Now, a lot of folks always look at the player potential, right? Especially when we were looking at the AAF last year. One of their big reasons that they wanted to be around was to be a feeder league for the NFL. But now we're seeing executives move over, and I think it's pretty neat, right? So she had only been here since April. She had left her role with the Argonauts, where she was there for a few years, and prior to that, she worked with the Alouettes. And she had the goal of becoming the first female general manager in the CFL. Hey, you know what? That might happen now in the NFL, or maybe we'll see her come back to the XFL. Who knows? But you know what? Congratulations to you. So unfortunately, we have one more departure for the XFL this week, and that's Todd Washington. So the former XFL DC tight ends coach, right? So he's moving on to the New York Jets as the offensive assistant. And again, I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I congratulate him. It really shows the potential that the XFL is going to have. It's going to make these jobs a little bit more lucrative and more valuable from an outsider's perspective when they start seeing folks get jobs in the NFL, right? Because, of course, the XFL is not competing with them right now. They're not even on the field yet. Now, maybe a couple years down the line, it may be a little bit more competitive, and we'll see what happens then. But you should expect these types of changes to happen. And again, congratulations to both of you. So we're going to move over now to maybe another possible person that we may have had the option of choosing not being available. So former Birmingham Iron quarterback Luis Perez, who is also summer showcase attendee in St. Louis, recently worked out for the Carolina Panthers, right? So he worked out for them this past Monday. They have some interest in him, and it's pretty interesting. So if he was signed by the Panthers, he would be the sixth AAF player that they have signed so far. So beyond him, it would be Rashad Ross of the Arizona Hotshots. We have Brandon Green of the Iron, Kid O'Brien of the Iron, Parker Collins of the Legends, Cole Hunt of the Commanders, and Marcus Baugh of the Fleet. So he would be number 6 if they do sign him. Now, I still would love to see Luis Perez in the XFL, and even if he is signed by the Panthers, there's no guarantee that he even plays for the team. He might even just be signed to a practice squad at the end of the day, or even cut altogether. But he did have some pretty decent stats in the AAF. So he had 7 starts, 135 of 258 passes completed, resulting in 1,460 yards, had 5 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So, not the greatest on the interceptions, especially when you have more interceptions than touchdowns. But again, you might see some of this in the XFL too. You really need that full season to gel. The AAF, unfortunately, didn't get that full season. I expect the XFL is going to definitely get a full season and more. So, I really think that end of the first season XFL going into the second, third season, we're really going to start to see it shine. And so if he comes into the league, I think it'll give him that opportunity to grow and also show what he's made of, right? So sign him up. I hope he does get that shot with the Panthers. It'll be valuable learning experience. It'll also, again, kind of prove the point of what the XFL or the AAF was trying to do by build the guys that would feed in to the major league, right? And so it's kind of coming to fruition, right? And if he doesn't, I fully expect him to be in the XFL draft this October. So we're going to talk about a little bit of trademark news now. So a couple weeks back, we talked about the XFL trademarking 5 potential names for the XFL Seattle franchise, right? So we have a little bit more trademark news, but this isn't really about names. This is more of an idea, and it's kind of interesting to see where the XFL may be planning to go. Because one thing you need to remember with trademarks, it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to do it, but they want that idea held for them, right? So let's kind of go over that. So Alpha Entertainment, parent of XFL, owned by Vince McMahon, also owner of WWE, has trademarked Pro Football Advisory Board. Now, what is that, right? What does that mean? So we're going to take a look at the trademark filing and see what it says, right? So just a quick synopsis. It really seems like the XFL as a league is trying to get into the XFL news business. And you know what? Sign them up. I welcome them. We are the number 1 source in XFL news, so if they join, we'll probably be number 2. But hey, we'll be the number 1 fan-run organization, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm okay. But we're going to go through the filing and see what it says. So it starts off with entertainment services, namely providing a website that displays requests, reviews, recommendations, rankings, votes, polls, and surveys for users in the field of football, right? So right off the bat, we're getting that out of the way. It's kind of an interactive website, possibly a place for fans to go vote on team names, maybe, who knows? Possibly a place for fans to go vote on, the plays during the game, maybe gamble or some type of fantasy environment. Very possible, right? But it also goes on to say that it's nature of blogs, podcasts, surveys, polls, newsletters, videos, all of that stuff. So now we're really expanding, right? And it even goes on beyond the website part of it. It pretty much states the same as far as downloadable software. So pretty much an app. So basically they're trademarking a property that would be a website and an app that users would be able to go and digest interactive content, whether it be blogs, news, scores, surveys, all sorts of things like that, videos, podcasts. So sign them up. I'm excited to see where this goes, how this builds, because like we've mentioned in the past, the one thing that this new XFL has that the old one didn't, regardless of all the changes of this new league, is social media. The internet was there, but it wasn't really where it is now, right? So beyond the social media aspect, beyond the website, you have your apps. And looking at it from a marketing perspective, you really want to create one full cycle environment, something that you can feed into it from any of your channels. That is what is going to make this league successful more than anything, right? We know that the on-field presentation needs to be exquisite, but they also need this fan interaction because the fans also need something to keep them engaged, right? So there are a big section of fans that are going to be local to the home areas. And of course, the league is going to try to get them into the stadium, but there's also a chunk of fans all over the globe that it's just really not an option. So you need these types of interaction technologies to keep them engaged when the games aren't going on, or while in between the games or something like that, right? So again, I'm looking forward to see where this goes, right? I'm a marketing person. I like all of these things, clearly, right? Because we do run XFL Newsroom, the number one source in XFL news. So we're getting signed up on that. So now we're going to shift our tune. The last story of the day, we're going to talk about what could have been, but what has become from the AAF Championship. So Steve Spurrier was presented with an AAF Championship ring. Now, some people agree with this and some people do not agree with this. And I'll say, you know what? I'd rather somebody have a championship ring than nobody, right? So basically it stems off from the fact that the Orlando Apollos, where he was head coach, were the number one team by a pretty decent margin at the time of the league's folding, right? So basically, Spurrier came out of retirement to coach the Apollos. And like I said, they folded after 8 weeks and they were the best team. When it came to them, they had a record of 7-1. So they only lost one game. That one game was a fluke. We'll just say it's a fluke. And even Spurrier himself last April after the league folded said as much, that they deserved the championship. Not so much him, but the players that played for him on that team. He was saying, we're all disappointed, but on the other side, we got to be the champs, right? We're 7-1 and the next teams are 5-3. And you know what? I'll sign him up there. So he got his ring. He posted on Twitter. So Saturday morning, he tweeted out a photo of him, his ring, and a couple other guys receiving the ring. And it sounds like everybody that played on the team was eligible to purchase a ring, right? They weren't given a ring. The AAF clearly doesn't have any money left anymore. And honestly, I don't think the AAF even presented these rings. I think they were designed and then were available to purchase if you were a part of that. I don't know who set it up, but whoever did, congratulations. Or if anybody knows, let us know down in the comments. But sign them up there. I'm excited to see that. We're probably not going to get much more AAF news now, right? We've finally gotten to the point where the league has been dead and gone for a while. Some people have some championship rings, but Spurrier's son's working for XFL Dallas. I know a lot of people want to see Spurrier Sr. in the league as well, but it doesn't look like it's happening. A lot of the major hires have already been made. There are clearly a few openings now, like I said, in XFL DC and XFL Tampa Bay, but I don't really think it's something that Spurrier's into. But maybe he does want to be the assistant general manager. Only time will tell. It would be interesting to see. I think a lot of the XFL fans would like that because I know he was a fan favorite in the AAF. A lot of people were hoping he would jump into the XFL. But like I said, only time will tell. And like I said, that is the last story of the week. I'm sorry, it's not the biggest news week, but there was some news. We're going to get those team names soon. We're thinking next week. That's probably the only time we're going to get them if we're looking at July. But we were the first people to say that it could possibly come in August. So that's why we're number one. But before we let you go, if you didn't know, we're also on Facebook and Twitter. And again, it's at XFL Newsroom. Much more of a premium handle. Sign us up there. Go give us a follow. Give us a like. Sign us up. And since we're on YouTube, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to see when we're dropping new videos. Some are going to be live and some are going to be pre-recorded just like this one. So until next time, sign you up.